Do you think medieval queens were all about pretty dresses and grand feasts? Think again. What if the most powerful women in the courts of Europe from the 6th to the 15th centuries were actually masterminds of espionage, running secret networks and gathering intelligence to protect their thrones, their families, and even their lives? Get ready to uncover the hidden world of queens who played the ultimate game of thrones long before anyone wrote a book about it. Number 11. Isabella, the First of Castile. In the late 15th century, as the medieval era drew to a close, and Spain began to unite under a single crown, Queen Isabella, the First of Castile, stood as a titan of political acumen and strategic foresight. Born in 1451, her reign in the Second of Aragon was marked by incredible transformations, from the final reconquista of Granada to the funding of Christopher Columbus's voyages that would forever alter the course of global history. Yet, beneath the veneer of piety and grandeur, Isabella was a queen who understood the absolute necessity of information, control, and the subtle art of intelligence, gathering to maintain her burgeoning power and secure her dynasty. Her court was not just a place of diplomacy and ceremony, it was a complex web of eyes and ears designed to bring her critical insights from every corner of her expanding realm and beyond. Isabella's ascent to power was fraught with challenges, starting with the disputed succession to the Castilian throne after the death of her half-brother Henry IV. This early period of her life, marked by uncertainty and threats from rival claimants like Joanna la Beltraneja, taught her the paramount importance of knowing who was loyal, who was plotting, and what information was circulating. She understood that securing the throne wasn't just about military might. It was about controlling the narrative, understanding the undercurrents of discontent, and identifying potential enemies. Before they could mobilize, her network of informants began small, likely with trusted ladies-in-waiting, confessors, and personal servants who overheard conversations and observed unusual activities within the palace walls. These early forays into intelligence laid the groundwork for a more sophisticated system as her power grew. Once, Queen Isabella faced the immense task of unifying a kingdom that had long been fractured by feudal lords and internal strife. The nobility, traditionally independent and often rebellious, posed a constant threat to royal authority. To counteract this, Isabella skillfully employed a combination of royal oversight and covert intelligence. She sent trusted corregidores, royal representatives, to cities and towns throughout Castile, not just to enforce laws, but also to serve as her direct conduits for local information. These officials, often unnoticed in their true capacity, reported on everything from local disputes and economic conditions to the spread of rumors and the sentiments of prominent families. They were her eyes and ears in the provinces, allowing her to preempt revolts and identify disloyal elements before they could gather strength. Her intelligence gathering extended to the religious sphere, a critical aspect of her reign. The establishment of the Spanish Inquisition in 1478, while primarily a tool for religious uniformity, also functioned as a powerful instrument for social control and information acquisition. The Inquisition's extensive network of denunciations, interrogations, and tribunals inadvertently collected vast amounts of data on individuals, families, and communities. While not directly a spy agency in the modern sense, its operations provided Isabella and Ferdinand with an unparalleled understanding of the hidden lives and beliefs of their subjects, helping them identify dissenters and maintain a tight grip on public order. It is said that no secret could long remain hidden from the combined scrutiny of the Crown and the Holy Office, allowing Isabella to anticipate and suppress any challenge to her authority, whether spiritual or temporal. Beyond internal matters, Isabella's ambitions stretched to foreign policy. Her funding of Columbus's voyages, for example, wasn't merely an act of faith. It was a strategic investment in gaining intelligence about new lands and resources. She keenly understood that whoever mastered the seas and controlled information about newly discovered territories would hold immense power Her diplomats and envoys to other European courts were not just negotiators. They were tasked with subtly gathering intelligence on the strengths and weaknesses of rival kingdoms, their military capabilities, and the political leanings of their rulers. They would listen to whispers in noble houses, observe the comings and goings of foreign dignitaries, and even cultivate contacts among disaffected courtiers. To gain, Valo was also adept at using information as a weapon. She understood the power of propaganda and rumor. When facing challenges to her legitimacy, she ensured that favorable accounts of her reign and lineage were widely circulated, while damaging whispers about her rivals were discreetly spread. She curated her public image, ensuring that she appeared as both a devout Catholic queen and a formidable, divinely chosen ruler. This control over information, both overt and covert, allowed her to shape public opinion and undermine her enemies. Without direct confrontation, her mastery of statecraft was deeply intertwined with her ability to gather, analyze, and deploy information, making her one of the most effective and perhaps one of the most subtle intelligence operatives of her time. Laying the foundations for a unified and powerful Spain. Number 10. Margaret of Anjou. The Wars of the Roses, the tumultuous period of English history in the 15th century, were not just fought on battlefields with swords and arrows. They were also waged in the shadows with whispers, alliances, and the crucial exchange of information serving as powerful, often decisive weapons. At the heart of this clandestine struggle stood Margaret of Anjou, Queen Consort to the weak King Henry VI, and arguably the most formidable and politically active woman of her age. Born in 1430, Margaret was a French princess thrust into the cutthroat world of English politics, where her very survival and that of her son's claim to the throne depended on her acute understanding of power, manipulation, and a vital role of intelligence. She was not merely a queen who led armies, she was a queen who meticulously cultivated networks, interpreted coded messages, and understood the psychological warfare inherent in dynastic conflict, making her a master of the covert campaign. From the moment she arrived in England, Margaret found herself in a precarious position. Her husband, Henry VI, suffered from bouts of mental instability, making him an unreliable ruler. This vacuum of power was quickly exploited by ambitious noble factions, most notably the House of York, led by Richard, Duke of York. Margaret quickly realized that to protect her interests and her son Edward, Prince of Wales, she could not simply rely on traditional courtly influence. She needed actionable intelligence. She began by cultivating a loyal inner circle of ladies-in-waiting chamberlains and trusted servants who became her primary sources of information within the royal household. These individuals, often overlooked by male courtiers, were ideally placed to observe subtle shifts in allegiance, overhear private conversations, and report on the movements and moods of key figures. They were her eyes and ears within the very heart of the enemy's potential domain. Margaret's intelligence network extended far beyond the palace walls. She understood that information gleaned from common folk merchants and even clergy traveling across the country could provide critical insights into popular sentiment and the spread of Yorkist propaganda. It is recorded that she employed messengers and agents who would travel under various guises, mingling in market towns and inns, listening to gossip and gauging public opinion. These reports were then compiled and analyzed by Margaret and her most trusted advisors, helping her to identify regions where Yorkist support was strong or where potential rebellions might brew. This ground-level intelligence allowed her to tailor her own propaganda efforts and strategically deploy her limited resources to shore up support. Her strategic genius was particularly evident during the periods when Henry VI was incapacitated. As Regent, Margaret became the de facto ruler of the Lancastrian cause, a role that demanded constant vigilance and proactive intelligence gathering. She relied heavily on coded communications with her commanders in the field, ensuring that military plans remained secret while also receiving timely updates on troop movements and enemy dispositions. It is plausible that she employed individuals skilled in cryptography, both for entroking her own messages and for attempting to decipher intercepted Yorkist communications. The ability to read an enemy's plans before they unfolded would have provided an invaluable advantage in the fast-moving, unpredictable theater of civil war. Furthermore, Margaret was exceptionally adept at understanding and exploiting the rivalries among the English nobility. She actively sought out disaffected Yorkists or those who felt slighted by Richard, Duke of York, using their grievances to her advantage. Her agents would discreetly approach these individuals, offering incentives or promises of future reward in exchange for information or a change of allegiance. This delicate dance of negotiation and persuasion, often conducted through intermediaries, required a sophisticated understanding of human psychology and the ability to identify leverage points. Her famous ability to galvanize support for the Lancastrian cause, even when facing seemingly insurmountable odds, was rooted in her deep knowledge of her adversaries' strengths and weaknesses. Information she gathered through a carefully cultivated web of contacts. Margaret's efforts were not always successful, as the Lancastrian cause ultimately failed, but her methods demonstrate a remarkable grasp of espionage principles. She understood the power of a whisper, the weight of an intercepted letter, and the value of a well-placed informant. Her relentless pursuit of intelligent circumstances and her unwavering determination in the face of constant threats solidify her place as a queen who was not just a warrior, but a master of the hidden war, navigating the treacherous waters of medieval politics with an intelligence network that was as vital as any army. Her story is a testament to how a queen driven by fierce loyalty and a will to survive could transform herself into a formidable intelligence operative in an age defined by open conflict. Number 9. Philippa of Hainault. Queen Philippa of Hainault, consort to the formidable Edward III of England, is often remembered for her gentle nature, her deep devotion to her husband, and her role as a patron of arts. Born in 1314, she was the mother of numerous children, including Edward the Black Prince, and she provided a steadying presence during one of England's most expansive and warlike periods, the early stages of the 100 Years' War. However, to view Philippa merely as a serene royal wife misses a crucial aspect of her influence: her shrewd political acumen and her remarkable ability to manage the intricate web of courtly information, effectively acting as an intelligence hub for her husband while he was campaigning abroad. Her role was less about direct espionage and more about the masterful collation and dissemination of vital information, making her an indispensable, though often uncredited, intelligence. When Edward III was away, leading his armies in France, sometimes for extended periods, the governance of England fell largely to Philippa. This was not a passive role. It required active decision-making, diplomatic engagement, and, most importantly, a comprehensive understanding of the political climate, both domestically and internationally. Philippa understood that the stability of the kingdom depended on accurate and timely information. She cultivated a vast network of correspondence, not just with her husband's commanders and chancellors, but also with influential nobles, bishops, and even leading merchants. These individuals, often drawn to her by her reputation for fairness and pragmatism, would send her letters and reports detailing everything from local grievances. Philippa's court became a central clearinghouse for intelligence. She had a highly organized chancery overseen by trusted clerks who would process the incoming dispatches. It was a sophisticated system far beyond simple letter reading. Information was categorized, cross-referenced, and summarized, allowing Philippa to identify patterns and potential threats that might otherwise be overlooked. For instance, reports of unusual troop movements in Scotland, whispers of discontent among Welsh lords, or intelligence about French diplomatic overtures to potential English allies would all be meticulously gathered and presented to her. This systematic approach to information management was crucial for her ability to govern effectively and to provide her husband with the strategic insights he needed for his military campaigns. One of Philippa's most significant contributions as an intelligence gatherer came during the period of the Scottish Wars. When David II of Scotland launched an invasion of northern England in 1346, capitalizing on Edward III's absence in France, It was Philippa who took decisive action. While historical accounts focus on her rallying the English forces and leading them to victory at the Battle of Neville's Cross, what is often less emphasized is the preparatory intelligence. Her network in the north would have been on high alert, receiving reports on Scottish troop concentrations, their movements and their supply lines. This information would have been critical for the English commanders, allowing them to anticipate the Scottish advance and plan their defensive maneuvers effectively. It is not unreasonable to suggest that a constant flow of reconnaissance reports, filtered through Philippa's central intelligence hub, played a pivotal role in the English success. Beyond direct military intelligence, Philippa also acted as a vital counterintelligence figure. She understood the importance of maintaining loyalty within the English nobility, especially given the various factions and personal ambitions that constantly threatened to undermine royal authority. Her network of ladies-in-waiting and court officials, often subtle and discreet, would monitor the activities of powerful lords, identify any signs of disaffection, and report potential conspirators. By understanding the personal grievances and ambitions of the nobility, Philippa could often intervene before plots fully matured, either diplomatic persuasion, the offer of royal favor, or if necessary, by alerting her husband to the need for more forceful action upon his return. Her ability to navigate these complex social dynamics, often reliant on informal intelligence gathered through her female court, solidified the stability of the realm during Edward's frequent absences. In essence, Philippa of Hainaut transformed the Queen's traditional role into that of a central intelligence coordinator. She was not a cloak and dagger operative, but a highly effective manager of information, using her position and her extensive network to ensure that her husband had the strategic awareness he needed to wage war, and that the kingdom remained stable in his absence. Her quiet yet profound influence demonstrates that in the medieval world, the mastery of information, its collection, analysis, and strategic deployment was as crucial for a queen as it was for any spy master, making her an unsung heroine of intelligence during a turbulent era. Number 8. Joanna, the First of Naples. Joanna, the first Queen of Naples, who reigned from 1343 to 1382, lived a life that was less a stately procession and more a dramatic, intrigue-filled opera. Born in 1326, her long reign was a constant struggle for survival against powerful relatives, ambitious popes, and the ever-present threat of assassination and deposition. Accused of regicide in the murder of her first husband, Andrew of Hungary, Joanna was a woman who navigated the treacherous waters of 14th-century Italian politics with an astonishing blend of cunning ruthlessness and an undeniable talent for intelligence gathering. To survive for nearly 40 years on the Neapolitan throne, facing no less than 4 marriages, numerous invasions, and perpetual conspiracies, she had to be a master of hidden information, a queen who understood that secrets were the ultimate currency of power. Joanna's early life set the stage for her reliance on intelligence. Her marriage to Andrew of Hungary was unhappy and politically disastrous. When Andrew was murdered in Aversa in 1345, likely strangled and thrown from a window, suspicion immediately fell upon Joanna, creating a scandal that reverberated across Europe. To clear her name and retain her throne, she needed to control the narrative, identify her accusers, and understand the motivations of her enemies. This crisis forced her to develop a nascent intelligence network. She would have relied on a small, intensely loyal cadre of servants and courtiers who could discreetly investigate, listen to whispers, and report on the activities of those who sought to incriminate her or seize her kingdom. This early period of extreme personal danger sharpened her senses and instilled in her a deep appreciation for actionable intelligence. Once she established a degree of control, Joanna faced continuous threats from the Angevin dynasty's various branches, her Hungarian relatives, and the papacy, which held feudal overlordship over Naples. To counter these diverse enemies, she developed a sophisticated system for gathering information. Court was filled with seemingly innocuous figures who were in fact her eyes and ears. Ladies-in-waiting listened to noblewomen's gossip. Confessors heard secrets in the confessional, and merchants traveling through her kingdom relayed information about popular sentiment and potential rebel movements. Her diplomats and envoys to other Italian city-states and European courts were tasked not just with formal negotiations, but with carefully observing political shifts, alliances being formed, and the movements of armies. These agents were skilled in the art of subtle inquiry, extracting information without revealing their true purpose. Joanna also understood the importance of counterintelligence. Given the constant plots against her life and throne, she actively sought to identify spies within her own court. Chroniclers speak of her employing trusted individuals to spread disinformation, test loyalty, and even stage false scenarios to expose traitors. If a rumor of a certain plan reached her, she might let it be known through a seemingly accidental leak that she was aware of it, or she might intentionally spread a slightly altered version to see who picked it up and relayed it. This cat-and-mouse game allowed her to keep her enemies off balance and identify those who served competing interests. Her ruthlessness, often criticized by her contemporaries, was frequently a direct result of her need to eliminate threats identified through her intelligence channels. One of Joanna's most enduring challenges was the political machinations of the Avignon papacy, which repeatedly attempted to assert its authority over Naples, often through intrigue and by stirring up rival claimants. Counter this, Joanna maintained a dedicated network of agents within the papal curia itself. These informants, often low-ranking but well-placed clerics or lay servants, provided her with invaluable insights into papal intentions, the lobbying efforts of her enemies, and even the internal divisions within the curia. This allowed her to anticipate papal bulls, prepare diplomatic responses, and even play rival cardinals against each other, buying her time and preserving her sovereignty. Without this stream of intelligence, she would have been constantly reacting to events rather than proactively managing them. Joanna I of Naples, in her ceaseless struggle for survival and power, exemplifies a queen who mastered the art of espionage. Her political agility, her ability to turn disadvantage into opportunity, and her sheer longevity on a volatile throne were not merely products of luck or military might. They were the direct result of her sophisticated intelligence operations, her ability to gather secrets, to identify enemies, to manage information, and to wield it as a weapon. Her court was a crucible of intrigue, and Joanna at its center was undoubtedly its most cunning and effective spy master, cementing her legacy as a queen who ruled as much by her wits and her secrets as by her crown. Number 7. Isabella of France. In the early 14th century, Europe watched in fascinated horror as Isabella of France, Queen Consort of England, embarked on a journey that would earn her the chilling moniker She-Wolf of France. Born in 1295, she was the daughter of the powerful King Philip IV of France, and her marriage to Edward II of England was meant to cement peace between the two rival nations. However, Edward's disastrous reign, his perceived favoritism towards male companions, and his catastrophic misrule pushed Isabella to her breaking point. What followed was an astonishing display of political maneuvering, diplomatic cunning, and clandestine operations that saw a queen not only abandon her husband but actively plot his overthrow and likely his eventual demise. Her story is a compelling narrative of a queen who, driven by desperation and ambition, transformed into a master of espionage, using intelligence, manipulation, and covert alliances to achieve her aims. Isabella's disillusionment with Edward II deepened over the years, particularly due to his reliance on unpopular favorites like Piers Gaveston and later Hugh Despenser the Younger. These men wielded immense power, alienated the English nobility, and openly slighted Isabella, even controlling her finances and household. Isabella found herself increasing isolation. This vulnerable position forced her to seek information through unofficial channels. She would have relied on her French household staff and a few trusted English ladies to relay whispers from the court, observing the movements and conversations of her husband's favorites and their adherents. These initial efforts, born out of necessity, laid the groundwork for a more elaborate intelligence network. A pivotal moment in Isabella's transformation came when she was sent to France in 1325 to negotiate a peace treaty with her brother, King Charles IV. This diplomatic mission provided her with the perfect cover to escape her husband's oppressive court and begin to forge the alliances necessary for his overthrow. While in France, Isabella became the epicenter of a web of English exiles, disgruntled nobles, and disaffected clergy who were equally desperate to see Edward and the Despensers removed from power. She established secret communication channels with these individuals, using coded messages and trusted couriers to relay information about English politics, the strength of the Despensers' support, and the readiness of the English lords to rebel. Her agents would travel back and forth across the channel, sometimes disguised as merchants or pilgrims, carrying vital intelligence back to Isabella. One of Isabella's most audacious intelligence coups was her cultivation of Roger Mortimer, an exiled English baron who had a personal vendetta against Edward II and the Despensers. Mortimer quickly became her lover and her chief conspirator. Together, they meticulously planned the invasion of England. This required an incredible amount of logistical intelligence. Knowing which ports were unguarded, which noblemen could be counted on for support, what troops were available, and how popular sentiment might sway. Isabella used her French connections to gather intelligence on shipping, financial backing, and even potential mercenary forces. She was reported to have secretly met with powerful French lords, and even the Pope's representatives, subtly gauging their willingness to provide assistance or, at the very least, remain neutral in her audacious venture. The success of Isabella's invasion in 1326, which led to Edward II's capture and deposition, was a testament to her mastery of intelligence and counterintelligence. Her forces landed virtually unopposed, indicating that her network had successfully neutralized any early warnings to the king. The swift collapse of Edward's regime suggests that Isabella's agents had effectively eroded his support base and identified key vulnerabilities. Moreover, once in power, Isabella and Mortimer continued to employ a sophisticated intelligence apparatus to consolidate their rule. They rooted out lingering supporters of Edward II, intercepted correspondence, and monitored potential threats to their new regime. Chilling circumstances surrounding Edward II's death in Berkeley Castle, though never definitively proven to be ordered by Isabella, speak volumes about the ruthlessness with which she was willing to eliminate threats once intelligence had identified them. Isabella of France's journey. From a beleaguered queen to the architect of a successful coup d'état cruise, her extraordinary capabilities as a spy master, she leveraged her unique position, her international connections, and her sheer determination to build an intelligence network capable of overturning a kingdom. She understood that information was power, and she wielded it with a precision that few queens or kings of her era could match. Her story serves as a stark reminder that behind the velvet and ermine, some medieval queens were playing a much deadlier game, where secrets, whispers, and well-placed agents determined the fate of crowns and dynasties. Number 6. Blanch of Castile. Blanch of Castile, born in 1188, ascended to a position of immense power as Queen Regent of France during the minority of her son, Louis IX. Her regency, which spanned much of the 1220s and continued intermittently throughout Louis's reign, was a period of intense political turmoil, marked by relentless challenges from rebellious French barons, powerful English rivals, and even internal court intrigues. To navigate this perilous landscape and successfully secure the throne for her young son, Blanche displayed an extraordinary aptitude for governance, diplomacy, and crucially, intelligence gathering. She understood that a strong regent needed more than military might. She needed to know the intentions of her enemies and the loyalties of her friends, making her a formidable, though often understated, master of medieval information warfare. From the moment her husband, Louis VIII, died in 1226, leaving a 12-year-old heir, Blanche was surrounded by hungry wolves. The great lords of France, resentful of the growing power of the Capetian monarchy, saw an opportunity to reassert their independence. Blanche knew that overt force alone would not suffice. She needed to understand the motivations and alliances of these powerful nobles. Her first step was to cultivate a network of loyal agents within the households of the most prominent barons. These could be lesser nobles who owed her allegiance, ambitious squires seeking advancement, or even trusted household servants who overheard conversations and observed visitors. This network provided her with early warnings of plots and defections, allowing her to preempt rebellions before they gained momentum. Blanche's intelligence gathering extended to the intricate world of medieval diplomacy. She understood that foreign powers, particularly England, were keen to exploit France's internal divisions. Her envoys to the English court and other European powers were not just negotiators. They were her eyes and ears, tasked with subtly extracting information about military preparations, treaty negotiations, and the political leanings of foreign rulers. They would listen for whispers of financial weakness, internal feuds, or shifts in alliances that could be leveraged to France's advantage. Blanche was particularly adept at sowing discord among her enemies, using intelligence to identify existing rivalries and then subtly exacerbating them, a tactic that often fragmented opposing coalitions. Perhaps one of Blanche's most impressive feats of intelligence management was her handling of the Barons' League during the early years of Louis IX's reign. A powerful coalition of nobles, including Peter of Dreux and Hugh X of Lusignan, openly defied the regency. Blanche, rather than immediately resorting to battle, first sought to understand their individual grievances and motivations. She used her intelligence network to identify the weakest links in the alliance, often discovering personal ambitions or past slights that could be exploited. She then skillfully used a combination of negotiation, threats, and targeted promises to peel away members of the League one by one, ultimately causing its collapse without a major pitched battle. This strategy was entirely dependent on accurate real-time intelligence about the internal dynamics of her opposition. Blanche also faced challenges from within her own court, where ambitious courtiers and even members of the royal family might seek to undermine her authority. To maintain control, she employed a discreet counterintelligence strategy. She relied on trusted members of her household to observe behavior, report on unusual meetings, and identify those who might be spreading dissent. She had a keen eye for subtle signs of disloyalty and a reputation for swiftly and decisively dealing with perceived threats. This created an atmosphere where potential conspirators knew they were under constant scrutiny, making them hesitant to act. Her ability to inspire both fear and respect, backed by a formidable intelligence apparatus, was crucial to her long and successful regency. In essence, Blanch of Castile was a queen who understood that ruling was as much about information as it was about command. Her successful regency, culminating in the peaceful transfer of power to her adult son, Louis IX, was a testament to her strategic brilliance and her mastery of intelligence. She built and managed networks of informants, deciphered the intentions of her enemies, and used information to divide and conquer, ensuring the stability and power of the French monarchy during one of its most vulnerable periods. Her story is a powerful example of how a queen, through intellect and the discreet gathering of secrets, could shape the destiny of an entire kingdom. Number 5. Oraka of Leyon and Castile. Oraka, Queen of Leyon and Castile, born around 1081, inherited a fractured and turbulent kingdom. In 1109, a realm still grappling with the complex aftermath of the Reconquista. Her reign, lasting until 1126, was a relentless struggle against ambitious nobles, a scheming husband, and a determined son, all vying for control of the throne. To survive and even thrive amidst this chaos, Oraka, the first reigning queen in European history, had to possess not only remarkable resilience, but also an extraordinary capacity for political maneuver. She was a queen who lived on the edge of betrayal, where every alliance was suspect and information was her most potent weapon. Oraka's life was defined by the constant need to assert her legitimacy and control. Her father, Alfonso VI, had intended her to rule, but her gender and her forced marriage to Alfonso I of Aragon, the battler, created endless conflicts. The marriage itself was a political disaster, marked by hostility and eventually open warfare between the two monarchs. In this environment of constant suspicion, Oraka developed a keen understanding of espionage. She needed to know what her husband was planning, what her rebellious nobles were plotting, and what her son, Alfonso VII, was doing to assert his own claim to power. Her survival depended on having eyes and ears everywhere. Oraka's primary intelligence network likely centered on her household and her extensive personal connections. As a high-born queen, she had ladies-in-waiting, chamberlains and trusted clergy who were privy to court gossip, overheard conversations, and observed the loyalties of various factions. These individuals, fiercely loyal to her, acted as her private intelligence service. They would discreetly report on the movements of her husband's courtiers, the arrival of suspicious envoys, or any unusual gatherings of nobles. This allowed Oraka to anticipate betrayals and move against conspirators before they could fully enact their schemes. She was renowned for her ability to preemptively address threats, a clear indication of superior intelligence. Her diplomatic efforts were also steeped in intelligence gathering. Oraka's representatives to other Iberian kingdoms and even to the papacy were tasked with more than just formal negotiations. They were instructed to gather information on potential allies, the strength of rival armies, and the political stability of neighboring realms. They would observe court dynamics, identify key figures who might be open to her influence, and report on internal disputes that could be exploited. In a period when alliances shifted frequently, Oraka's ability to predict and adapt to these changes was directly linked to the quality of her intelligence. She understood that knowledge of an enemy's weaknesses or a potential ally's ambitions was invaluable beyond traditional espionage. Oraka was a master of using information to manipulate perceptions and rally support. When faced with rebellions, she would circulate carefully crafted messages highlighting the disloyalty of her opponents and emphasizing her own rightful claim and her commitment to the well-being of the kingdom. She understood that public opinion, even in the 12th century, could be swayed by information. She employed a network of messengers and scribes to disseminate her narrative, while also gathering intelligence on how her messages were being received and where dissent continued to fester. This combination of propaganda and intelligence allowed her to maintain a fragile but persistent hold on power. The constant struggle with her husband, Alfonso I of Aragon, forced Oraka to engage in a continuous intelligence war. She needed to know his military plans, his financial resources, and the extent of his support among the nobility of Leyon and Castile. It is plausible that she cultivated informants within his own court, or among the Aragonese nobility, who resented his actions against the legitimate queen. This detailed intelligence would have been critical in allowing her to evade capture, raise forces, and counter his advances effectively. Her survival against such a formidable opponent speaks volumes about her ability to acquire and utilize secret information. Oraka of Leyon and Castile, though often overshadowed by later, more famous queens, stands as a testament to the power of intelligence in a deeply unstable medieval world. She was a queen who ruled by her wits, her networks, and her profound understanding of the human element in politics. Her ability to navigate an unforgiving landscape of betrayal and warfare, often outmaneuvering more powerful male rivals, firmly places her as masterfully a queen who wielded secrets as effectively as any sword, carving out a unique place in history as the first reigning queen to hold her own. Number 4. Eleanor of Aquitane. Eleanor of Aquitane, born around 1122, was not just a queen. She was an institution, a force of nature, who shaped the political landscape of 12th century Europe like few others. Her life, spanning nearly 80 years, saw her as Duchess of Aquitaine, in her own right Queen of France, and then Queen of England, a journey that involved crusades, rebellions, and the rearing of powerful monarchs, including Richard the Lionheart and King John. While not a cloak and dagger operative in the modern sense, Eleanor's extraordinary political acumen, her vast network of contacts across Europe, and her uncanny ability to gather and disseminate firmly establish her as a master of intelligence gathering. She understood that power flowed from knowledge, and she cultivated sources and channels that would be the envy of any medieval spy master. Eleanor's initial experience with power came as Duchess of Aquitaine, one of the wealthiest and most culturally sophisticated regions in France. Court was a hub of poets, scholars, and knights, but it was also a place where information flowed freely. As she navigated the intricate feudal loyalties of her vast duchy, she learned early on the importance of knowing who was loyal, who harbored grievances, and what alliances were forming among her vassals. She established informal channels with local abbots, powerful merchants, and even minor nobility, ensuring she had a constant stream of information about economic conditions, local disputes, and potential unrest. Her first marriage to Louis VII of France brought her into the very heart of the French court, a place of intense rivalries and political maneuvering. Though this marriage eventually ended in annulment, Eleanor gained invaluable experience in the subtleties of court politics. She learned how to observe, listen, and extract information from seemingly innocuous conversations. Her ladies-in-waiting, many of whom came from influential noble families, served as her eyes and ears, providing insights into the characters and intentions of key figures, the dynamics of court factions, and the political leanings of various families. This ability to read a room, understand subtle shifts in power, and leverage personal connections became a hallmark of her intelligence. It was during her second marriage to Henry II of England that Eleanor's intelligence capabilities truly flourished. As Queen of England and still Duchess of Aquitaine, she commanded immense influence across two major European powers. When Henry II, a notoriously active monarch, was constantly traveling throughout his vast Angevin empire, Eleanor often served as his regent in England or governed Aquitaine. In these roles, she required a sophisticated intelligence network to maintain order, secure loyalty, and counter threats. She cultivated relationships with bishops, sheriffs, and leading townsfolk throughout England and France, ensuring she received regular reports on local administration, legal disputes, and any signs of rebellion or discontent. Perhaps the most dramatic example of Eleanor's intelligence work was during her rebellion against Henry II in 1173 to 1174 in support of her sons. During this period, she actively conspired with disaffected nobles in England, France, and even Scotland. This grand rebellion, involving her sons, foreign monarchs, and numerous powerful barons, could not have been orchestrated without an elaborate system of secret communication. Eleanor's agents would have traveled extensively, conveying coded messages, assessing the strength of various rebel factions, and coordinating simultaneous uprisings. She would have needed to know where Henry's forces were concentrated, which castles were vulnerable, and which nobles were willing to commit to the dangerous enterprise. Her meticulous planning and coordination, despite her eventual capture, speak volumes about the depth of her intelligence network. Even during her long years of imprisonment by Henry II, Eleanor remained a figure of immense political significance, and it is highly likely she maintained some form of communication network. After Henry's death and her release by Richard the Lionheart, she emerged not as a broken woman, but as a powerful matriarch, actively involved in governing England. During Richard's crusades, and later in securing John's succession, she continued to use her vast network of family, friends, and loyalists to gather intelligence, negotiate alliances, and diffuse potential conflicts. Her ability to navigate the complex dynastic politics, securing advantageous marriages for her grandchild, was a testament to her lifelong mastery of information. Eleanor of Aquitane, in her vast influence and her intricate manipulation of power, was undoubtedly a queen who mastered the art of intelligence, wielding secrets and connections to shape an entire era. Number 3. Adelaide of Burgundy. Adelaide of Burgundy, born around 931 CE, lived in a turbulent period of early medieval Europe, a time when kingdoms where nascent power was often contested through brutal force, and the Holy Roman Empire was still taking shape. Her life was a dramatic saga of political intrigue, forced marriages, imprisonment, and eventual triumph. She was a queen who, through sheer resilience and an uncanny ability to gather and utilize information, rose from adversity to become one of the most influential empresses of the Holy Roman Empire. Her journey from captive princess to powerful co-regent alongside her husband, Otto I, and later, as regent for her grandson, Otto III, highlights her extraordinary skills in Otto III. Adelaide's ordeal began shortly after the death of her first husband, King Lothair II of Italy, in 950, Berengar of Ivrea. A powerful Italian magnate seized control of Italy and sought to force Adelaide into a marriage with his own son, Adalbert, to legitimize his usurpation. This refusal led to her imprisonment in a castle where she was subjected to cruel treatment. It was during this period of extreme vulnerability that her intelligence capabilities would have been put to their initial test. Surrounded by hostile guards and under constant surveillance, Adelaide reportedly used a network of sympathetic servants and a loyal chaplain to communicate with the outside world. Through these clandestine channels, she managed to send messages to Otto I, the powerful king of Germany, pleading for his intervention. This daring act of secret communication, orchestrating her own rescue, foreshadowed her later aptitude for intelligence. Upon her dramatic escape from captivity, often depicted as involving a tunnel and a fisherman's boat, Adelaide fled to Canossa, where she sought refuge. Otto, recognizing her legitimacy and her strategic value, as Empress Adelaide quickly established herself as a formidable political figure. She became Otto's trusted advisor, and her extensive knowledge of Italian politics, gleaned from her own experiences and ongoing intelligence networks, proved invaluable. To her husband, she understood the intricate loyalties and rivalries of the Italian nobility, information that Otto desperately needed to consolidate his control over the peninsula. Adelaide fostered a network of informants among the Italian bishops and abbots who, as powerful landowners and political figures, had their fingers on the pulse of regional affairs. These churchmen, often loyal to the Empress due to her piety and generosity, would send her reports on local rebellions, the movements of rival factions, and the sentiments of the populace. This intelligence allowed Otto and Adelaide to preemptively address threats, deploy forces strategically, and maintain a tighter grip on their vast, newly acquired territories. She also cultivated relationships with influential women within noble households, using the seemingly innocuous channels of female correspondence and visitation to gather critical insights into family alliances. After Otto I's death, and later during the reign of her son Otto II, Adelaide continued to play a pivotal role, particularly in Italian affairs. She understood the importance of maintaining control over communication lines and was adept at intercepting messages and deciphering political intentions. Following Otto II's early death, she faced a period of considerable challenge during the regency for her young grandson, Otto III. Here again, her experience and her network of loyalists were critical. She navigated a complex court, dealing with ambitious nobles and rival regents. Her ability to identify and neutralize threats directly tied to the intelligence she could gather. She was reportedly skilled in using subtle diplomacy, and the strategic dissemination of information to undermine her opponents and secure her grandson's authority. Adelaide of Burgundy, therefore, was a queen who transcended the traditional roles of her time. Her capacity for resilience, her extraordinary personal escape, and her long tenure as a powerful empress were deeply rooted in her mastery of intelligence. She built networks, gathered secrets, and used information as a tool for survival and power, establishing herself as a formidable political operator and an unsung master spy in the earliest centuries of the Holy Roman Empire, a testament to how a queen's wits could shape the very course of history. Number 2. Olga of Kiev. In the 10th century, amidst the nascent Russia's lands, a figure emerged from the shadows of early medieval history who would earn a legendary reputation not just for her piety but for her astonishing ruthlessness and strategic cunning. This was Olga of Kiev, born perhaps around 890 CE, who became regent for her young son Sviatoslav after the assassination of her husband Igor of Kiev in 945 CE. Her story is a chilling class and intelligence-gathering calculated revenge and the use of psychological warfare, cementing her place as one of the most formidable and perhaps the most brutal master spy queens of the early medieval period. Olga was a queen who transformed personal tragedy into an opportunity for ruthless state-building, using information and deception as her primary weapons. Igor's death at the hands of the Drevlians, an East Slavic tribe from whom he was attempting to extort tribute, left Olga in a perilous position. Her son was a child, and the Russia's realm was vulnerable to tribal unrest and external threats. The Drevlians, emboldened by their success, immediately sent envoys to Kiev, proposing that Olga marry their prince, Mao, and thereby transfer power to their tribe. This was their first fatal mistake, for they underestimated Olga's intelligence and her capacity for cold, calculated retribution. She received their envoys with feigned courtesy, a deliberate act of deception designed to gather information about their intentions, their confidence, and the extent of their plans. Olga's revenge, recounted in the primary chronicle, is a series of meticulously planned intelligence and counterintelligence operations. The first group of Drevlian envoys arrived by boat. Olga, pretending to honor them, had them carried into her court in their boats. However, this was a trap. Upon her signal, her men dropped the envoys, boats and all, into a deep trench, burying them alive. This act served as a chilling message, and also eliminated potential informants who might have reported back to the Drevlians. It was a swift, decisive strike, based on her assessment of their arrogance and lack of suspicion. The second act of revenge was even more elaborate. Olga sent word to the Drevlians that she required their best men to escort her to their lands, promising to fulfill their proposal of marriage. The Drevlians, still unsuspecting due to Olga's cunning deception, sent a large delegation of their most esteemed warriors and nobles. Upon their arrival in Kiev, Olga again greeted them with feigned hospitality, inviting them to bathe in a bathhouse before the feast. Once they were inside, Olga's men locked the doors and set the bathhouse ablaze, incinerating the entire delegation. This was a critical blow to the Drevlian leadership, executed with precision and relying on their continued belief in her feigned submission. Her intelligence gathering here involved understanding their cultural expectations and exploiting their trust. But Olga was not finished. She then sent a third message to the Drevlians, stating that she was coming to their capital, Iskorostan, to mourn at her husband's grave. She requested that they prepare a great feast, asking them to bring honey and other provisions. The Drevlians, again falling for her deceit, eagerly complied. Upon her arrival, after feigning mourning at the burial mound, Olga invited the Drevlians to drink deeply at the funeral feast. As they became intoxicated, Olga's warriors, who had likely infiltrated the group or were waiting nearby, fell upon them, slaughtering thousands. This grand deception required detailed intelligence on Drevlian customs, their expected behavior at a funeral feast, and the willingness of her own men to execute the brutal plan flawlessly. Her final act of revenge against the Drevlians demonstrated her mastery of strategic information warfare. She besieged Iskorostan, their capital, but after a long siege she offered them a seemingly lenient peace. She demanded only 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each household as tribute. The Drevlians, desperate to end the siege, readily agreed. Olga then ordered her soldiers to attach sulfur and fire to the feet of the birds. Released at dusk, the birds flew back to their nests in Iskorostan, setting the wooden city ablaze. The Drevlians, fleeing the inferno, were either caught and killed by Olga's waiting troops or enslaved. This final act was a stroke of genius. Relying on a profound understanding of the city's structure, the birds' instinctual behavior, and the psychological impact of such a devastating, unexpected attack, Olga of Kiev's reign as regent was defined by these acts of calculated retribution, each one a testament to her cold intelligence, her strategic planning, and her ability to deceive and manipulate. She used feigned submission, false hospitality, and clever misdirection to gather information, lure her enemies into traps, and execute her vengeance with devastating efficiency. Her methods might appear barbaric by modern standards, but they were the ultimate display of intelligence and counterintelligence in a brutal age, securing her son's inheritance and solidifying the power of the nascent Rus. Olga was a queen who was not just a survivor. She was a terrifyingly effective spy master. Number 1. Theodora. In the heart of the 6th century, the Byzantine Empire, a vibrant successor to the Roman Empire, was a labyrinth of political intrigue. At its very core, alongside the Emperor Justinian I, stood Empress Theodora, born around 500 CE. Her journey from the gritty world of the Hippodrome to the opulent palace of Constantinople was nothing short of miraculous, a testament and an astonishing capacity for understanding and manipulating the hidden currents of power. Theodora was not merely a ceremonial figure. She was Justinian's equal partner in governance, a formidable political force, and a queen who operated a sophisticated, often ruthless, intelligent Reichwehr. She was a master spy in an age when secrets were truly life and death. Theodora's early life, as an actress and possibly a courtesan, provided her with an unparalleled education in human nature. She learned to read people, to understand their desires, their weaknesses, and their hidden motives. She encountered individuals from all walks of life, from powerful senators to common street vendors, giving her an understanding of the city's pulse that few aristocrats possessed. This background instilled in her a pragmatic understanding of information, who held it, how it flowed, and how it could be used. When she married Justinian, a man consumed by the desire to restore the Roman Empire, Theodora brought with her not just charisma, but a keen strategic mind attuned to the subtle arts of influence and intelligence. Once Empress, Theodora established her own sphere of influence within the Byzantine court, distinct yet complementary to Justinian's. She maintained a separate intelligence apparatus, leveraging her network of contacts from her earlier life and cultivating new ones among the palace eunuchs, chamberlains, and ladies-in-waiting. These individuals, often overlooked by the male-dominated political establishment, were her eyes and ears within the palace walls. They reported on everything from the private conversations of senators to the political leanings of court factions and the spread of seditious rumors. This information allowed Theodora to anticipate challenges, identify potential enemies, and subtly influence Justinian's decisions before open opposition could materialize. Theodora was particularly adept at handling internal threats and political conspiracies. The Byzantine court was notorious for its betrayals, and any perceived weakness could be exploited. The historian Procopius, though often critical of Theodora, details numerous instances where her intelligence network exposed plots against the throne. For example, during the Nika riots in 532 CE, when a massive uprising threatened to depose Justinian, it was Theodora's steadfast courage and her understanding of the city's undercurrents that provided the crucial advice to remain. Her intelligence likely gave her insight into the true extent of the riot's leadership and their motivations, allowing her to gauge the risk and recommend a decisive, brutal response. Beyond palace intrigue, Theodora's influence extended to religious policy and foreign affairs. She was a strong advocate for the Monophysite Christian faction, and she maintained secret correspondence with various religious leaders and communities throughout the empire, gathering intelligence on theological disputes. This allowed her to pursue a more nuanced religious policy than Justinian, often using her information to protect Monophysite leaders or to exert influence where Justinian's direct policies might fail. Her ability to gather intelligence on religious dissent was crucial in maintaining a fragile peace within a diverse empire. Furthermore, Theodora engaged in what could be called proactive counterintelligence. She was keenly aware of the spies and informants sent by rival factions or foreign powers into Constantinople. She had a reputation for ruthlessness towards those she deemed disloyal or treacherous. Chroniclers suggest she used agents to spread disinformation, test the loyalty of courtiers, and even set traps for suspected conspirators. Her deep understanding of human psychology, cultivated over years, allowed her to identify subtle signs of deception and to preemptively neutralize threats. She understood that a strong ruler not only gathered information but also controlled its flow and used it to project an image of omnipotence. Theodora's life was a testament to the power of intelligence in a complex, dangerous world. Her rise to power, her survival in the cutthroat environment of the Byzantine court, and her profound influence on Justinian's reign were all underpinned by her mastery of espionage. She built networks, understood motivations, and wielded secrets with a precision that cemented her legacy as one of the most powerful and effective queens of the medieval era. A true spymaster who governed as much from the shadows as from the throne.